So I was like, yeah, it's my shoulder sling muscles, my arm sling muscles that are all hurting me right now.
Yeah, and there's
okay, whatever you say, honey.
It's so fascinating how the shoulder connects to the hip and vice versa.
Yeah. And I know what it is too. We were able to, through a variety of like me talking about which muscles and him looking at my form, we're like, okay, we're pretty sure it's this particular aspect of my putting form that's giving me this particular pain. It's my trapezoids on both sides, but it's more like on my right and lower sides.
Your lower trap on your left?
Yeah, it's like my inner, like the close where it kind of connects.
So you've got, so this is one of my favorite lines. I just love how the body makes this X on the back.
Yeah, these diagonals that you were talking about.
Yeah, and it also goes down the leg. So if you've got right, it's going to go left, right shoulder. That's my left shoulder. Left shoulder to right hip. So where it connects. So if you're talking about your upper traps being tight on this side, that fascial line is going to connect the QL, the thoracolumbar fascia, the lats, even a little bit, like at the bottom, maybe a little bit, and then the glutes, and then it goes all the way down the legs. So you've got your biceps femoris, you've got your calves, you've got it all the way down. So it's like that, and the other way, that, which is just fascinating, especially when you're talking about musicians how they. And so if you think about how you play horn and how how you play bassoon, do you rotate when you play? Do you have, do we rotate from the hips? Do we rotating from the shoulder? Are we rotating from the neck? And how do they all, like, so shoulder pain, cool. What are your hips doing? How are you sitting? Direction, right?
And not just their this way rotation, but their this way rotation.
And then we have that. Yeah, so in the postural distortions in guide 12, so we've got upper cross syndrome, which you're going to see a lot of, and lower cross syndrome, which you see a lot of. You can have both, and you can have forward head posture on top of it, which usually leads to one or the other or all three. And I mean, they're crazy common. So seeing that in yourself as you're learning all of these, the different distortion patterns.
Right, I'm listening.
Yeah. As you're seeing all of those, you're going to start seeing them in your students and in your colleagues. And it's kind of funny, but it's like kind of fun to start like eyeballing people and being like,
diagnosing from across the room.
I look at everybody's feet when they walk, when they sit, when they're standing, when they're whatever. I'm always paying attention to people's feet. Part of that came from a dynamic integration class that I had with Ava on Flexor Stretch. And we talked an awful lot about the feet, and not just what direction, but like how that relates to confidence and body posture and body language. But then putting on top of what I know now about the distortions, it's really interesting how it all plays together. So if you get a student who has low self-confidence, notice their feet usually turn. They get the forward head posture because we're trying to self-protect, right? So we're coming in this way. And so those are the signs that you can see. So and if you tell them, oh, you've got this problem, that's not going to help the problem. They are going to withdraw further into themselves. So it's like noticing that posture, you can address the underlying problem there, which is lack of confidence. And it's like, why do they have a lack of confidence going into that? Well, that can affect their play. I mean, so it's all related, but like learning how to talk to students about that. Because funny story, I was in a pedagogy class. There were only 3 of us. There were 3 flute players and Ava. So the class was 4, and she's asking us to like identify each other's posture. What do you see in Angela's posture? What do you see in Ellen's posture? What do you see in Sarah Jane's posture? And I looked at my colleague, now my colleague, and I looked at her and I was like, well, her feet are pointed in and her knees are together. So I don't think she has very much confidence. She seems very, and I just like outset it like that. There was an immediate feeling of like, how dare you call me out? Like this vibe. It's like, well, I mean, she asked, right? That was part of the class. Probably, like, what are you going to say about it? Because it's true. And she just always had this posture of and I'm not worth it, and deprecating comments and things. And then teacher forced me to call her out, and we didn't get along well for a while after that. I was like, well, maybe I could have said it differently, but honestly, that's, and I don't think she has that problem anymore, but it's like, you know, you can really see how that can start to affect your posture if you're always forward and trying to protect that midline, right? And so another fascial sling, which goes down the, it's like the midline line or sling, or whatever you call it. And that's really fantastic because it goes down the neck and the multifidi and again, it's basically everything all along the spine, right? I mean, and you can see, and also in the front, so the rectus abdominis. Hi, Kitty. So all I tried to block.
He said, nope, gotta supervise.
That's what they do. Oh, you're on the computer, so am I.
It's especially Zoom, like he knows not just when I'm working, but when I'm in a Zoom meeting. And he doesn't do it when I'm on a phone call. He only does when I have video calls. He has to see who I'm talking to.
Yep. Well, he's very pretty. I'm sorry, he's very handsome.
He can be both. Yeah.
Oh, what a boy.
He's tolerating.
Yeah, he's got really pretty eyes.
He really does.
Yeah, I've got one who's he's a very fluffy monster with amber eyes.
Ooh.
Very pretty. Not a snuggle. He wants to walk in the room if I'm on Zoom, and then he's like, hi. And then leaves. Like, I go to pick him, he's like, don't touch me. I'm like, what are you walking here for? Every time. So
he needs to be on the lap, but he doesn't want to be picked up ever. Cuddling only on
weird. Yeah. So getting back into
midlines.
Yeah, so we've got all these different kind of lines. We've got the assessments, we've got how the compensations affect the whole body. I really kind of love that. You've probably seen that image before where if you've got, so for example, let me just see if I can share my screen. Screen share on. So if we're looking at this.
Yes.
Probably seen this before.
Yeah, actually, you know where I first saw images like this was in like art classes. Like dynamicism in postural drawings, like figure drawings.
So what's interesting is how often you see this pattern in people, myself included. I have had right hip pain for years, since I joined the Army like 19 years ago, and I started at basic training. Hasn't stopped. It only happens when I run. But I can totally see, so this thing on the left, so the left hip is dropped, the femur rotates inward, the tibia rotates inward, the foot rotates. That's mine on the right side completely. Okay. Have I
Funny,
yes.
I have flat feet, which cause tendonitis on the outside of my knees for like all of I had to do a lot of work on my feet.
No, you froze.
That, they kind of cave inward. Right. Oh,
with what? You froze.
I wonder if it's like, but I had flat feet, and so my knees on the outside had tendonitis, like all through junior high and early high school.
Yeah.
And so I like quote unquote fit by wearing heel inserts, like arch support.
Right.
And I haven't had problems with it since then. But it's something I'm always with.
Right. So if you look at what happens when the feet, they externally rotate, but they also collapse inward. And when the arches collapse inward,
right, exactly. And that
affects the knee.
Yeah, exactly.
So my first thought is if you have, I see this all the time. If somebody has flat feet or basically your arch is a muscle and you can contract it. And one of the hardest to do is to contract your arches. So having somebody stand on one foot and contract their arch is really hard. So have them stand on both feet, lift both arches. You're going to feel your TVA and your core right in the middle just kick in because it's along that same midline. We got arches all the way into the TVA, up into the neck, right?
Right.
Connected. So when you have somebody rotate, and it's not just rotating their feet, that's part of it. But if they can, it's like rotating and squeezing the toes at the same time. It's kind of like telling how to wiggle their ears. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
But when you lift that arch, it engages the core. So also, what I was going to say is that I see this a lot, but what usually happens is if you're looking at on this little model, the TFL, which I don't know if we talk about in this course much, I call it your pocket muscle. You probably your IT band, right?
Yes.
Everybody's for the IT band. The IT band is connected to the TFL, tensor fascia lata. That's what we call it TFL. It's too long to say. It's basically, I call it your pocket muscle because it's right where your pockets would be. If you put your hands in your pockets, you're touching your TFL. It's right on the sides of your hips. It turns, it's this flat muscle and it turns into your IT band. Your IT band inserts on the outside of your knee. When people have this knee, the IT band is tight, which is squeezing the quads, which is rubbing, which is causing the problem. So roll your IT band. Don't roll your IT band. It's a tendon. It's not going to change. It has no. It's just going to hurt. But you need muscle.
Yeah.
So you have to relax the TFL. The TFL is relaxed. The IT band is relaxed. The problem. So it rotates the hip. And so if the TFL is tight, the feet are flat. Sometimes, most of the time. And the core is usually weak. And when I say core, I'm usually referring to.
Interesting. You're referring to what? Sorry, you froze a little.
Oh, sorry. That might be my Wi-Fi. So when I'm referring to the core, I usually am referring to the TBA, which is the transverse abdominis. That's the main deep core muscle that tends to be weak in like everybody except like gymnasts and people who are really aware of it. It can be even weak in musician singers, because depending on how you were taught to support, that may or may not translate over in your daily life. And if you've got other compensations on top of it, that TBA can kick on and then kick back off. Simplistically speaking, it doesn't ever just like kick on and off. It's not like a light switch. But so if you're looking at this, what else do you see? So we've got like a drop on the one side. So if you've got this whole thing,
shoulder, which would make me think it's like, I don't know if that has to do more with like the dropped arm and shoulder, or if it's more with like a tightness on the opposite side that's raising the opposite shoulder. You know what I mean? I don't really know. That's why I'm here.
So you see how we've got the three triangles, right?
Yeah.
And they're kind of balanced. If they were balanced, the lines would be here, but then they tip, the other one has to tip. And it's so the body is trying to achieve balance, but when you have this compensation, it can't achieve it. So when this is, like, you can try it now. If you're sitting and you hike a hip, your opposite shoulder is going to move. If you drop a hip, your shoulder's going to move. You can't just try not to move. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's my belly dance.
Yeah. It takes a little bit more concentrated effort.
Yes. So this is not like a hard and fast rule. If you see this dropped and rotated hip and foot and whatnot, it doesn't mean that the opposite shoulder is going to be affected necessarily, but there's a high likelihood of it. And then also look to see, does the head shift from side to side? So this skeleton, it looks like the head might even be shifted. It could also be an optical illusion, but it could be shifted from one side to the other. I know when I do a chin tuck, I tend to, well, maybe not right now, but I tend to like, my head shifts to one side. It tends to anyway, but that's just muscles on my neck. One side are tighter than the other, which came from too many years of this. So, and then we have, hopefully, able to see. I hate it when it does this. Like you click on something and it doesn't automatically go to the right.
Yeah, for some reason, Facebook hasn't quite figured out. Yeah, it's still a little glitchy.
And what's funny is it also makes me say that I have done these. Like I wrote it, but make me use. So yeah, this whole thing right here, there's a PDF. Let me know if you can't see this. Does this come up?
No, yeah.
Okay, so this guy, he really knows his stuff. But if you take one of his classes, they're going to be very anatomy heavy. He doesn't dumb down the language whatsoever. It's like it's all retract, anterior, posterior. He doesn't say front, back, side, any of that. So
right.
you can be up on your stuff. But so then we've got this intrinsic stabilization subsystems. He calls them subsystems instead of slings. They're all so. But you can see, like, we talk about the transverse abdominis, but you can see how everything is connected in this one cavity, right? So the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, they go together. When you breathe, they come down and up. If you've got in one versus the other, that can translate to the back, can translate to the front, it can translate. So if you've got, like if obviously if the TBA is weak, the multifidus is probably gonna be tight. Get into that distortion there. This that I just love, because you see it all the time. We've got the line here, the sacrotuberal ligament, when you go from here to here. So if anybody tends to rotate their hips when they play or rotate their shoulders, you see this kind of compensation pattern. So it's like, okay, do we have where do we have pain? And you see this so many times, like the site of pain is not necessarily the source of pain. So with your shoulder, let's check your hip. That's why this is good. Yeah. And glute medius, totally agree. Glute medius is weak in a lot of people.
Wait, sorry. If the glute medius is weak in
a lot of people.
Oh, just in a lot of people.
A lot of people. Yeah, because it just left me. All right. I don't know. It does things. But yeah, it's weak in a lot of people. It stabilizes it. I think it externally rotates the hip. When I have people do band walks and bridges with band around the knees, when pressing your knees out against that band, that really kicks the knee, and it works really well with the muscles of the core, which is funny. It's a glute muscle. It is a muscle of the core, but this one you do see somewhat. You know, again, we've got like an X, but it's an X kind of on the front side, you know, from side. So what you're going to see when we get into, or when you get into the movement assessments,
right?
You're going to see, I don't talk about it a lot, but you might see a shift. I see this in some people, unfortunately kind of common and very confusing. I've been doing this a decade. I'm still freaking confused about it. When you get an asymmetrical weight shift, so somebody squats and their hips go this way, this where this can come into play. So the adductors on one side, the TFL, the glute med on the other side.
Right.
You know, it just gets to be a mess. So again, it depends on, do you sit a lot? Do you play guitar? Do you rotate? Do you have, you know, what are you playing? What are you doing in your daily life? That kind of thing. And then this exact, you see all this, you see this kind of pattern a lot out here as well. Here's the TFL. So you can see it turns into the IT band. It starts way down here, the knee. Yeah. So what else we got here? This one I've seen actually, which is funny because we talk about these like they're separate things. They're all working together all the time, but it's very helpful for finding dysfunction somewhere. Right. I see this a lot in runners. This kind of stuff. We get shin splints. Femoris is almost always tight in everybody. Who's trace that up the plane? You gotta get shin splints, or we have low back pain. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Yep. And so this just kind of goes into, this is all in the other stuff that he just lays it out really nice. Talks about how it all works together. So let me get this. All right. Okay.
And that's this first link in Guide 12, right?
That is asm.org. Wait. So then we get into, hold on, I'll show this too. Sorry, it's kind of loud, I know.
Okay.
But I didn't want to be home, so there's that. Plus I was already out. So when we get to these postural distortions, and you'll see there was another call I did where we talked about the postural distortions of the quads. So that should be helpful in answering some other questions. But I mean, so like we've got the pronation with the flat feet, that kind of stuff we just talked about. But you're also going to see, like, this came straight out of the textbook. These right here, I use these on movement assessments with all my clients, almost all my clients, especially because if you see somebody go here and they can't touch the wall, a lot of times you get that body is going to make that excess motion where it doesn't have it. They can't touch this to the wall because this is tight. You see that, which is why it's important to know.
Right.
And then, yeah, sometimes you see this, people are like, touch your hands to the wall, and they're like, their biceps are tight. You see it a lot. This you will also see a lot. So people come out and come in, do they do this?
Oh, like they have to lift in order to.
Right, and it's not a conscious thing. This is just, if their upper traps are really tight, when you come out, they're gonna do that.
Interesting, okay.
It is. And that's just like what all the things are.
Yeah. I'm thinking about making sure, but like in the future, like what I'm gonna do to make sure I get the most out of these live sessions. And I'm thinking, so obviously I'll try to do my own movement assessment for myself before then, but could I do that like in real time with you next week and get feedback on like what I'm getting right and what I might be missing? Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Absolutely. Because as you go through this, you'll see that's actually in the homework.
Yeah. Okay.
On your own.
I figured it would
on your
be,
own squat.
But I definitely wanted to get live feedback from you because there's plenty of things that I'm sure I'll understand. It's like, okay, well, you said it's not doing this, but it's whatever.
Yeah, it can be hard to self-diagnose because it's you, right? And so seeing and
but my understanding based on conversations I've had with some others is that my kinesthetic and bodily awareness in general is not very good.
Okay.
I don't have athletic intuition at all because
it's okay.
The subject of gentle and loving people with my family. Here at home. So
quite all right. Think about how many students you're going to have that are in the same boat. That uniquely help them. You get it. Right. Okay. So like you'll be able to help them because you're there.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that I'll be able to understand what I'm doing and diagnose correctly and not miss things because I'm not always intuitive. Yeah.
Right. So when you did the body awareness exercise, did that help? With the whole line?
Like I've done that before. It's more so that like
it's more so.
I don't know. Like I feel like I lose track of what my body is doing once I start moving.
Really?
Or like I've had some good practice where like on walks or I'm not talking to anyone or listening to an audiobook and they here is what my legs and my shoulders, my arms, my back, etc. are doing. But I can usually only focus on one part. And where I end up noticing my lack of awareness a lot is like if I take, say, a disc golf throw, my partner will say, did you stagger your feet? And I'm like, no, I don't know what I just did.
Right.
Another thing like when you cut, like you're leaning forward on one leg. And so most people intuitively pick up their back foot. And my back foot is always like glued to the floor. And I was like, oh, I see. I didn't do that. And my partner and dad were just like, yep, it does. That's why we all do it. So like it literally never occurred to me over the last month of playing to do that. And I said, no. This is true. And I asked my father-in-law, I walked him and I said, Pedro, did anyone tell you to lift your foot when you cut, or do you just do it? I just do it. I don't know. He said, you don't?
That's okay though.
So that's the kind of like bodily awareness that I'm concerned about.
Yeah. So something that might help. So say you're practicing. When you're practicing, you set a timer to go off at random intervals.
Okay.
Goes off, you freeze and notice what do I feel? Check in with different areas of your body. What are my feet doing? What do I feel my sit bones?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel this? But just freeze and like, am I holding tension? Oh, my low back, and just like stopping to take that awareness out of nowhere. Because you're not prepared for it. If it's random intervals, like 10 minutes. Plus, we get so wrapped up in our playing, we're not as right. So another thing is, Ava taught us to do this all the time. She told us to practice standing on one foot.
Oh, I love that.
That is great for a lot of things. Number one, so if you've read the book Inner Game of Music or Inner Game of Tennis, you hear about self one and two, right? It gets the one that talks to you all the time. It gets it out of the way because all it can focus on is don't fall over. Don't pull over. Like that's all I can do. So that's really good for checking and see like, oh, do I know my music? Oh, I do. Look, I didn't miss it. I got that voice out. But it also makes you very aware of what am I doing? So it forces you to pay attention. Or playing on a stability ball or something like that. I mean, like standing on a Bose ball or whatever.
Usually my norm is I have like a big physio ball, but not chair. Because a lot of, and this is actually something that came for me out of body mapping, was that oftentimes we were realizing like my posture in a lot of chairs, partially because I'm kind of fit, and partially just because most chairs you have lying around your house, like this out a pillow or something. It's like not necessarily well for playing. So the physio ball is a better like height and stability. And this is actually something I did want to ask you about today. But if you had about recommendations to give to students about how to fit, because, and that sounds kind of like vague in general, but
how to fit?
About that as it is what the body does. And sometimes it really matters if it's tilted one way or another. The other solution that I've had when sometimes put like a towel under the back, like a house chair, because that actually helps my posture a lot, especially when I'm coach. And so my feet usually don't rest on the floor in those chairs.
Because you're how tall are you?
Because I say that I'm 5'2".
Say that you're 5'2".
I say that I'm 5'2". I'm like 5'1" and 3.
You're 5'2".
I'm 5'2".
I thought I was 5'3" for the longest time, but my driver's license says 5'5", so I don't even know anymore.
Take the 5'5" and run with it.
Yeah, the Army lately told me I was somewhere more than 5'3", so I'm rolling with that. So you get to weigh more the taller you are. So that's so true. And I'm over that magical 40 age, so it's like I'll take every pound I can get.
Thank you.
Per inch. So yeah, absolutely. And it's just funny. This is probably the 5th time I've had this conversation this week. So obviously this is something.
Oh, great! It's a hot topic.
It is, and it doesn't matter, ergonomically about your instrument. This has nothing to do with that. It's
right.
Your body. So
your core.
It is your core. And
it's fine. And is it supported in a way that is easy and that allows you to breathe free?
Yeah,
which is important even if you're not a wing player.
Right, but you find that on a stability ball, when you breathe in, if your feet are flat on the floor and you're sitting on that stability ball, you should be able to feel, when you breathe in, you should be able to feel that pelvic
pushes down a little, yeah.
If it doesn't, you've got some restrictive breathing up here somewhere. So that's a good time to check your neck. Am I this? Are my scalenes tight? Do I see my SCM like in the mirror when I breathe? Do I feel restricted up here? So how can I breathe down into the ball? So finding where that restriction is.
Right.
But without the ball, like I'm sitting on a bench right now, for example.
Yeah.
On one of these. So my feet are flat on the floor, and where I am, okay, put it this way. When I was getting my brace for my broken thumb, the lady who was making like, sit back in your chair. You look like you're about to run away. I'm like, it's called good posture. I am. She's like, get comfortable.
Yeah.
I am comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable. You know, like slouching is like, buzz off, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but good posture should be effortless. So if your feet are flat on the floor, when you go back and forth, you should feel the two rockers of your pelvis. Those are your sit bones, right? So you should feel balance right in between the two, have equal weight on both. And then you'll notice, like your feet, do I feel the 3 points of each foot? So 1, 2, 3. Do I feel those?
Yeah. That's your
So again.
I said, you got your little tripods.
Yeah, right. So do I feel those? Because if not, and then you're balanced in between the sit bones. When you are balanced, your sacrum is actually right in between, and then your spine goes right up between that. So your bones are doing the work of holding you up, not, you know, you're not really working muscularly difficultly. You're not working really hard with your muscles to hold you up. The spine is doing the work. But if you sit back, or if you arch your back, you don't feel those sit bones the same way. So if you can check in and find like, is my weight balanced between my sit bones? One way or the other, back. If it is, that's where to sit. So it doesn't, you're gonna find it a lot harder if I scoot way back. I don't feel my sit bones anymore. Now I'm sitting more on my thighs. I really feel it. I go too far.
Or almost on your tailbone sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, not good.
No. So the thing is, I mean, as a flute player, they always told us, sit on the very edge of your chair. They were trying to say the same thing, but if you sit too close to the edge, you're going to end up back possibly.
Yeah.
Medium, you feel the sit bones evenly is a good place. Yeah.
Are there times that you would recommend like adjustments either to the chair or to like the seating arrangement as opposed to just like where you sit in the chair? Or not really? If you use the chair correctly, the chair will be fine. It's just don't sit.
Oh no, there are a lot of terrible chairs. Folding chairs. They slope backwards. I mean, they've got a butt cut out, but you're slouching.
Yeah, that always is, yeah.
Those are terrible. So if you sit forward on those, you should be able to feel your sit bones. That's the important thing. So, but like, if you get padded chairs, if they're too padded, you get the same thing. You basically lose, those sit bones are supposed to provide the support you need. And it shouldn't be like, I'm bounced right now. This is good posture. If you look at me, my spine is quote straight from the side.
Yeah.
There's no effort. But if you have too much padding, your bones don't have that support anymore. It's like they're on a ball. They're doing that, right? So, yeah, you can alter chairs. I mean, like the whole bending forward kind of thing. I get that, especially if you have these kids who are used to sitting way back and they're like, it feels very scary. Just watch that you don't tilt it too far because then the low back.
Right. It's not about it leaning so that you feel like you're gonna fall or slide off, but more so, I think a lot of it is because a lot of chairs, if anything,
they
do have the wrong way.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and it's not good. In fact, because my body mapping teacher, Rena Urso, so I don't know if you know her, she's a
player. Of course I know her.
Yeah.
She's on my committee.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So Rena had told me about, I forget who it was, someone might still make them, but her ex-husband found you to make chair blocks that you would put under the back two legs of your chair so that you could have those as opposed to like bringing a whole towel or something. Like you could have them on stage and they would be the
I've seen those.
Yeah, and Steve doesn't make them anymore, but I've been looking to see if someone does, but if not, I would shop them myself. Like,
hey, there's a market for it. You might be able to.
These in black and they're in there. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to like setup, well, for example, like flute players, we play to the side. We're out here.
Right.
It's his way out here. So why these band directors insist on shoving us right next to each other, I will never understand.
That's so mind-blowing to me. I'm like, do that to the clarinets.
Do you not see where this goes?
Side of the head. Never mind that it's right in their ear.
Yeah. And so then they end up doing this, you know, and like just do all kinds of horrible postures.
Yeah.
This is stupid. You don't have to space everybody way out. They don't even need to be this way. So like when I play, I turn my body about 45 degrees to the right. And then I turn my head
so that it's pointed a little behind.
Right. So now we're behind, right? I'm angled. But the thing is, like where I sit in the army band, I am on the left, like if you're looking at the stage, I'm on the right side of the stage, which means if I turn my back's to the audience. You want to explain to me how that works? Put me on the other side. It's dumb. Well, it's just the way it's always been done. Who cares? Put the French horns in front. What does it matter? You know, like so.
Yes, then we can shoot our sound at more of the orchestra.
Right. You know, like flutes are too loud. I'm like, no, we're just in your face. Maybe you should back up. Quit being right here. Hold on. All right. Like, why do conductors want to put themselves right in the middle and like flutes? I'm like, just back up. You know, so yeah, when it comes to like positioning yourselves, make sure you've got room to move whatever you play. There's no if you be squished like that. I mean, if you don't have enough room on the stage, maybe you should pick another stage. Yeah, simplistic answer, I know, but
right.
But yeah, so the thing is, we feel like we have to mold our bodies to these instruments. You mold an instrument to your body. It's a piece of metal or a stick or a thing or a block of wood. We are not supposed to conform to that. Make it conform to you. There's nothing right for that. Like, I mean, just because it's only been done this way forever doesn't mean it can't change, right? For example, flutes again. The inline, this finger is shorter than this finger. But inline flute.
Oh, you were telling me about this weird stupid key, and then someone finally put an extension. It's like, oh, it's cheating. But now everyone does.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've finally gotten out of that being, oh, you're a lesser player if you have an offset change. It's just stupid. And now into people are putting extensions on their keys because maybe they have short fingers, maybe they can't reach, maybe it's a metal stick. Make it fit. Yeah. Who cares if it's made of gold? It's still a metal stick.
Yeah. I had to get my horn valve altered so that they would reach a little closer to my fingers. The popular modification for a lot of people, besides changing like the angle of them, which helped a lot, we put dimes on.
Put dimes?
Dimes. Yeah, they have to be a certain set of years when they were actually made of silver, so that they don't, so your finger acid doesn't wear right through them playing, but they just solder on dimes to the ends of the keys, so like a little bit more stable. And it's a cool thing if all of your dimes are my only two of mine are from the same year, but
still though, that's pretty cool.
It's a reasonable modification that helps a lot of people. Same with like some clever, because the pinky thing is honestly like a terrible idea.
Yeah, so I feel like part of this course, I mean, we're not really talking about ergonomics and things because this is trying to reach all instrumentalists. And I know we've got a violinist in here just completed the course. We've got an oboe player, a bassoon player, a bass player. But I mean, like, we want to make it so it's for everybody, but having that, like being an advocate for changing the mindset around the ergonomics of the instrument, you are not a lesser player if you modify your instrument.
Right.
Yeah. It's just the dumbest thing. We've got to get out of our heads with that one. That's just mind-blowingly stupid. It's like it doesn't make any sense.
This is like maybe a weird tangent to this, but my conducting teacher and my college music advisor, he was a choir conductor, and she knew someone who, for many years, like they did something together or something. Yeah. And she was a choir conductor, but she was like less than 5 feet tall. Yeah. And so she actually brought an extra block to stick on top of the podium
Nice.
Usually it was way too short. And it's wrong with that.
Right?
And so it's like, like you gotta do it.
You gotta do what's right for you, exactly.
Yeah.
And so if anybody's watching this, if you're in a position to advocate for your students, and make sure that mindset is there. It's like, no, I gotta do what's right for me. Like I was sitting in the Army band. We were giving a concert, and he put me on the end, and I'm like, the way you have put up these chairs and you refuse to move them, I am literally playing with my back to the audience. He's like, you're gonna play that way? And he tried to tell me how to play my instrument, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I am gonna play this way because this is where you set me for starting. I mean, I'm just like, I am not, this is stupid and it's your fault. You can fix it, but instead you're gonna try to make me feel bad? No. I fight with conductors. I have no problem with it. The ego's gotta go. Just because you wave a stick doesn't mean you know. Started. I fought with a lot of conductors. Not sorry.
Yeah.
So
actually maybe related to that, because this is something I do with some students, especially because I was coaching for my old high school, which has a very big, very competitive marching band program. And the pedagogy among the marching instructors is one I strongly disagree with in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
All this like and like literally eliminating the way that it was taught. It was like the whole like here and bring your back up. It's like they wanted to make everyone like, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
For starters.
I wonder why people have back problems and hip problems. Yeah.
And we've made changes since then, but we also have a straight leg marching technique. Modeled after Blue Devils. I don't even think they use straight.
Your spine has curves in it. It's not meant to.
The spine is supposed to. That's how it best the weight of your body.
Right.
And that's how it's designed to with the musculature. But the question, I guess, is relates for a lot of people. What do you do when you have students who are also
Hold on a sec. Can you say that again? You're cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have recommendations for how to approach pedagogy when your students have other teachers and mentors who are telling them the opposite? When you know that their health is at stake. Because for me, it's like the band director, right? And it's like their band director says this. It's like, no. It's like you don't want to put them on the weird outfit too, but like,
yeah,
you know that what their band director
right. You don't want to undermine the band director's authority because that doesn't work well. But anyway, so like the best option is to actually go talk to these people themselves, even if you have that option, because a lot of times they're just regurgitating what they've been taught and they have a poor body map, so they don't understand that your spine has curves and they're just trying to get the effect. They don't necessarily mean harm. Usually. So I mean, if you have that option to like, hey, I know you don't, this is my student, this is the issue, I know you don't mean this, but this will be more helpful if you said this way because blah 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 blah. If that's not an option,
my back's actually hurting right now just from demoing that, and I did that for 4 years.
That's horrible. I mean, it's just right.
I was
oh yeah.
I was never more like like physically fit than I've seen here.
It is a sport.
I was our school's first class captain.
Nice.
It's very cool. I took it really seriously, and now I'm kind of
That's really funny. No, I mean, marching band kids take marching band very seriously, usually.
We sure did.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Yeah. If you're not in the place to go advocate for your students, what you can do is tell that student teach them how to advocate for themselves. And if say like the band director is just not going to hear it, you're the student, I'm the teacher, shut up, do what I say.
Yeah.
What the kid can do is be like, I'm just going to listen to what he has to say. And I know what the truth is. Like, okay, there is no standing up straight. There's pressure there, but at least they can go, okay, whatever, I'm doing this way. It's not going to make that much difference. I mean, you got 2 inches of variation in how you look. It's not going to be
okay. Yeah, that's what I told my kids. I said, the marching instructor is going to tell you this. Don't do this. You're wrong. Do what I tell you, and they'll say, great job doing what I told you, even though you're doing what I told you. So they won't be able to tell the difference. You'll look great, but you're not going to break your body.
Exactly. And then share that with the rest of your section. Okay. Right. And then so like just have the kids advocate for themselves. And then there's enough of them, I mean, they're not going to be able to see. And if the instructors have too much ego, it's a losing battle. You can sit there and fight, and it's not going to do any good. So the best thing, take care of yourself and learn, be able to teach the kids what they need to do to advocate themselves. Right. Exactly. It's not going to, you're not going to see anything. What is it? This versus this looks the same.
Honestly, you look so much taller and more intimidating when you don't look like you're trying to puff up.
That, yeah, right.
Like, I don't know, that's just me.
We get the same thing in the military. So when you stand at attention, your fingers are like this, thumbs are touching the seams of your pants. It's so much easier to go into hyperextension and squeeze the shoulder back, because that's military posture. That's standing at attention. You cannot do that on a parade field for an hour. So if you talk to the people in the old fife and drum corps, right, in the old guard, they have tests. They have to stand there for 30 minutes and not pass out, not move. They cannot move for 30 minutes. If they do, they don't get the job. I mean, that's part of the deal. Yeah. So if you're attention,
not move.
Exactly. So if you start out, you're not going to be able to hold that. You need to do as little as possible to still be able, like, you can move your toes, you can clench your butt and unclench your butt. I mean, you can like brace your core and unbrace your core. You can like do little movements, but you want to maintain as loose of a posture as you can, or I should say as easy of a posture as you can, while maintaining that look of rigidity, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I can stand at attention and just be like totally chill as a, you know, because you can't hold that. It's not realistic, you know?
Yeah.
And they can't tell the difference. They cannot. You cannot on a parade field. You cannot. No. And that's why people end up locking their knees, or they end up falling out without locking. It's just your body's not meant to be in that position. So you just have to take care of yourself.
Right.
Yep. And, you know, they do teach you, like, hey, you do have a half an inch or so. You can wiggle your knees within your pants and no one can see it. So this is how you so like little tricks like that. I actually wrote a book, like, what was it? It was about marching band hacks, like things that you can do to keep yourself like strong and mobile without getting into this exact posture. Something like band hacks for flutists or something. That's kind of, it's on my website. I'm gonna put that in the group too. Maybe somebody can add to it. And, you know, here's what it is for horn players. Here's what it is for so and so. Why not?
Yeah, that would be interesting and useful, I think.
Yeah, I'll go add that. So, yeah. Do you have any other questions for today?
Actually, there was one thing I was thinking, primarily because it's something I want to discuss in like my teaching group this week. It's about and so I know stretching the psoas, because I know it's like, you know, a kneeling lunge is a good way to do that. But if there was any other either stretches for the psoas or modifications, especially if you have like mobility or issues, if there's anything you would recommend.
Yes. I'm looking to see if I think I have this video in the course down the bottom. There is a video.
There's a psoas video.
There's psoas exercise.
Oh, hip flexor psoas stretch.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So the thing with that is, number one, does your psoas actually need to be stretched, or is it weak?
My understanding is that for a lot of people it becomes tight because of the constant sitting. But I know that, you know, that is
it can be tight and weak.
Weak can't it is
and it can be at one, because psoas, if you it's in the core section, as actually is two muscles.
Yeah, there's the
Psoas major.
majoris or something, and then psoas
And the
major,
iliacus.
iliac.
Right, and they share that attachment point down at the bottom, but the two
Right, and they kind of split off.
things. They do.
Exactly.
So the psoas major, it connects to your low back. So if you arch your back a lot, it's going to be stretched and weak. If a lot like this, it's going to be tight. When it could be tight at the attachment point, it could also be like, I get pain in my iliacus when I run, but I also have that we talked about in the beginning. Now the question is it dropped or is it rotated forward? Because your pelvis can actually rotate forward and back. The sacroiliac joint is not fused; it's mobile.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So when it comes to, so you have to know, like, okay, is it tight and it needs to be stretched, or is it tight and it needs to be strengthened? So, generally, I do the. There's a couple ways to tell, but like in the video, you'll see like you tuck the pelvis under, squeeze your butt, lean forward. That means you're gonna lean forward about this far. It's not the passive thing where you just go away. That's no good.
Sorry, one more time.
So with the psoas stretch, you're gonna tuck your butt under, squeeze your butt, lean forward, and you go back this far. It's not the passive stretch where you lean forward, you just go way out.
Right.
You don't want to do that. You want your glutes to kick on. And when you tuck your butt under and you squeeze, it brings you more into a neutral position if you have that lower cross syndrome. So that way your psoas is doing what it's supposed to do. And you might have, when you have lower cross, you could have the insertion point on the front of your hip flexor. That's what needs to be stretched, but not way up here. So if it is way up here, when you add the arm and then you twist back and lean over, you'll be able to tell. So I would try that on both sides. You'll be able to tell real quick if one side needs it and the other doesn't, and usually it's not both, it's usually one side.
Okay. And is that that full extra check on like the raise and twist, is that in the video also?
It should all be in the same video.
Okay, just because I haven't watched that one yet, but I think I'm going to do, like, in addition to all the stuff that I'm doing, I think I'm just going to talk all the stuff that I did.
Yeah. I thought I had, where is that video?
The psoas exercises in guide 22.
I don't think that's it. It says stretch.
Oh, that one's in guide 14. Hip flexor / psoas.
That's it. That's the one.
Okay.
Right, because then we go SMR, then we get into stretching, then we get into strengthening. There's a whole method to it. Here it is. Yeah. So the hip flexor stretch is without the arm. Psoas is where you add the arm, and I explained both of them. Gotcha. Yeah. Good idea though. So anybody who wants to like dry needle the psoas, it hurts a lot. You got to be real sure you need to do that.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
That would not be my first recommendation.
I've had that done and instant tears. Oh my gosh, I've never felt something that hurt so bad in my life, and it didn't make it any better. Guess why?
Because it needed to be strengthened. Gee, who could have foreseen that?
Well, apparently not the physical therapist and the doctor, the sports med doctor I went to, who said, the problem's all in your head. By the way, you're too fat. That's another conversation.
Only reason I get nervous about recommending or sending my kids to health specialists, not because it's like you shouldn't trust doctors, but just some of them don't really get it.
No, I was seeing the doctor for this because I have a permanent profile in the Army that says I don't run because my hip hurts, and nobody's been able to fix it. I think it's a genetic thing, quite honestly, because my mom has the exact same problem. She just had an x-ray this week and she's like, did I tell you what I saw with my hip? It's this thing. I'm like, oh, well, that's what I have. No amount, if you've got a genetic something with your bones, no amount of stretching is going to fix it.
Yeah.
You're not going to stretch your way out of scoliosis.
Yeah.
You know, same kind of thing. So I was just going there because to get this profile, to get it extended, you have to continually say that you're whatever every few years. So I was just to be proactive. So I knew it expired in a year and the Army keeps forever. And I see this doctor and he said, well, do you really want to get better? I was like, that's why I'm here, bro.
You, dude.
Yeah, he was a massive jerk. So he sent me to physical therapy. They did not listen. They told me to do all kinds of things I couldn't do. They were insulting, they were rude, and they did all kinds of stretches and stuff for my psoas. It didn't hurt when I walked in. Every day there's like, how's your pain? I'm like, I'm taking time, guys. It doesn't hurt. I'm trying to be proactive about this. By the time I left, it hurt every day. It caused it. So I go back to the doctor and he goes, we know sometimes problems are all in our head, you know. Aren't you a personal trainer? It's like, look, we're going to stop calling it the iliopsoas. It's the iliacus that's the exact problem. And then he refused to look me in the eye. The rest of the thing. He said, you know, sometimes problems are all in our head, blah, 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 blah. Why do you mean you don't run? Aren't you a trainer? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, bro, like, you're not, and in fact, you caused a problem and you're going to get the nastiest Google review ever. And I did. So, I mean, it's like, there's no cause for that. There's no reason for that. Just, you know, if you don't know, say you don't know. What's wrong with that? So anyway, that's my experience with the psoas.
I know it's a feelingsy one for you.
I mean, I would like to fix it. I'd like to have the opportunity to run again, but then again, I don't care that much. Yeah. It doesn't bother me unless I run, and I don't run. So
well, there we go.
If a bear chases me down, I got to go somewhere I can make it. It's not going to hurt me that much. But you know, other than that, so okay, this has been great to put this in the thing.
Thank you so much for taking the extra 5 minutes and all that. And